The wind screams across the frozen tundra of Ice Age Europe 40,000 years ago. Temperature, minus 25 degrees Celsius. A small band of Homo sapiens huddles in the entrance of a limestone cave in what is now southern France. Night approaches in 90 minutes. Without fire, hypothermia claims its victims within 6 hours at these temperatures. A modern human, stripped of technology and dropped into this environment, would last perhaps 8 hours before succumbing to exposure. The biological limits are absolute. Core body temperature drops, consciousness fades, death follows. Yet these ancient hunters faced this lethal equation every single day. They had no matches, no lighters, no ferro rods or magnesium strikers. Just stone, wood, and knowledge passed down through countless generations. So how did ancient humans create fire without any modern fire-starting technology? The popular image shows cavemen randomly bashing rocks together until sparks magically appear. Hollywood gets this completely wrong. Archaeological evidence from sites across 3 continents tells a radically different story. At Gesher Benot Yaakov in Israel, dating to 790,000 years ago, researchers discovered controlled fire use. At Schöningen in Germany, 300,000-year-old wooden tools show sophisticated fire management. Even at Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa, evidence stretches back 1 million years. These weren't lucky accidents or crude experiments. Ancient humans developed multiple fire-starting technologies, so refined, so engineered, so reliable that they would impress modern survival experts who spend years mastering the same techniques. At Chesem Cave near Tel Aviv, Israel, dating to 300,000 years ago, archaeologists discovered something extraordinary. The spatial distribution of microscopic wood ash particles revealed dedicated hearth locations used repeatedly over thousands of years. The precision was stunning. At Bolomor Cave in Spain, from 250,000 years ago, researchers found fire-cracked rocks arranged in patterns indicating controlled combustion zones. The stones showed thermal stress fractures consistent with temperatures exceeding 600 degrees Celsius. At Abric Romani in northeastern Spain, 50,000 years of continuous occupation revealed layer upon layer of hearths, each positioned identically. Even at Kent's Cavern in England, Paleolithic fire pits from 40,000 years ago contained specific wood species chosen for their combustion properties. But here's what made researchers reconsider everything about ancient fire technology. Among stone tool assemblages across Eurasia, archaeologists kept finding specific minerals with distinctive percussion marks. Iron pyrite nodules from France showed repeated striking patterns. Marcasite crystals from Belgium bore impact traces. Flint striker lights from Britain displayed wear signatures identical to historical fire-starting tools. The evidence wasn't scattered or random. It formed patterns. Patterns suggesting not just fire use, but fire creation. Multiple methods. Refined techniques. Technologies passed down and improved across hundreds of thousands of years. The ancient humans weren't discovering fire. They were engineering ignition systems. But how did they generate the initial spark without modern materials? The answer lies in pyrophoric minerals and precise kinetic energy transfer. Ancient humans discovered that certain iron sulfide minerals, specifically iron pyrite and marcasite, produce hot sparks when struck sharply with flint or quartz. The chemistry is elegant. Iron sulfide contains elemental iron in a sulfur matrix. A sharp blow with hard stone creates friction temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Celsius at the point of impact. This heat liberates microscopic iron particles, which instantly oxidize in air. The oxidation reaction produces the visible sparks. At Grotte du Lazaret in southern France, a 150,000-year-old occupation site yielded a remarkable assemblage. Archaeologists recovered 12 iron pyrite nodules showing concentrated percussion damage on specific faces. Associated with these minerals were flint striker lights, flakes deliberately shaped with sharp, hard edges. The configuration was unmistakable. This was fire-starting equipment. Modern experimental archaeology by Dr. Jill Weston at the University of Bradford demonstrated that skilled practitioners using replica tools can generate reliable sparks in under 30 seconds. The success rate exceeds 90% in dry conditions. The engineering sophistication extends beyond simple striking. Ancient humans understood material properties at an intuitive level that rivals modern metallurgy. They selected iron pyrite over other minerals because its crystal structure produces larger, hotter sparks. They chose flint as the striker because its conchoidal fracturing maintains a sharp edge through hundreds of impacts. Modern ferro rods, the survival standard, produce sparks through essentially identical chemistry, just with synthetic materials. The ancient version worked so well that European peasants used flint and steel for fire starting until matches became affordable in the late 1800s. That's a technology with a lifespan exceeding 100,000 years. Creating sparks solves only half the problem. Those sparks last mere fractions of a second. How do you transform a momentary flicker into sustained flame? Ancient humans developed sophisticated tinder bundles, engineered composite materials designed to capture, hold, and amplify microscopic ignition sources. The material science involved represents serious innovation. The primary component was char cloth, though ancient humans didn't call it that. Archaeological evidence from Hohle Fels cave in Germany, dated to 40,000 years ago, revealed carbonized plant fibers processed specifically for tinder. The process requires heating natural fibers, bark, or fungus material in a low oxygen environment. This drives off volatile compounds while leaving behind a carbon matrix with massive surface area. The result catches sparks with extraordinary efficiency. Modern testing shows properly prepared char material ignites from sparks 95% of the time, compared to 15% for raw plant matter. But ancient humans didn't stop at char. They created layered tinder systems. At the bottom, the finest, most combustible material, often amadou fungus scraped into a powder. This captures the initial spark. The middle layer contained shredded bark fibers, processed cattail fluff, or dried grass, providing fuel that transitions from smolder to flame. The outer layer used small twigs and wood shavings arranged for optimal airflow. This isn't random gathering of dry material. It's systematic engineering of a combustion cascade. The thermal dynamics are precise. Char ignites at approximately 300 degrees Celsius. As it smolders, it heats the middle layer to its ignition point of 450 to 500 degrees. The developing flame then ignites the outer kindling at 600 degrees. Each transition requires careful material selection and geometric arrangement. Modern fire starting instruction teaches identical principles. The ancient engineers simply figured it out through observation, experimentation, and knowledge transmission across generations. At Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic, 26,000-year-old remains of processed plant fibers show wear patterns consistent with tinder preparation. They were manufacturing fire-starting materials with the same intentionality modern companies manufacture camping equipment. Percussion fire requires specific minerals not available everywhere. Ancient humans needed backup methods. The solution came from understanding friction, pressure, and wood properties. Friction fire technologies, specifically the bow drill and hand drill methods, generate combustion through mechanical energy conversion. The physics is straightforward. The engineering is anything but. The bow drill system consists of 4 components. The drill, a straight wooden shaft. The hearthboard, a flat piece of wood with a depression. The bow, a curved stick with cordage. The bearing block, a stone or wood piece held in the palm. The operator wraps the bowstring once around the drill, positions the drill in the hearth depression, applies downward pressure with the bearing block, and moves the bow back and forth. The drill spins rapidly in the hearth, generating friction heat. At Ohalo 2 in Israel, a 23,000-year-old site, researchers discovered wooden artifacts bearing rotational wear patterns consistent with fire drill use. The wood species weren't random. Ancient humans selected specific combinations based on hardness ratios. The drill needed to be slightly harder than the hearthboard. Too hard, and no wood dust accumulates. Too soft, and the drill wears away without generating sufficient heat. The optimal combination produces a fine powder that accumulates in a notch carved beside the drill depression. As friction continues, this powder heats to approximately 700 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, wood undergoes pyrolysis and begins to smolder. Modern friction fire experts report success rates around 70% after years of practice. The technique demands precise pressure, consistent speed, and proper wood moisture content. Ancient humans mastered this as children. At Kalambo Falls in Zambia, 300,000-year-old wooden tools show modification patterns suggesting fire stick production. They weren't just using friction fire, they were manufacturing specialized equipment for it. The hand drill, a simpler variant using only the drill and hearthboard, requires even more skill but eliminates the need for cordage. Archaeological evidence suggests both methods coexisted, with practitioners choosing based on available materials and conditions. This wasn't primitive technology, it was appropriate technology, optimized for specific environmental contexts. Fire starting technology means nothing without transmission systems. How did ancient humans ensure this survival critical knowledge passed reliably between generations? The answer lies in social learning networks far more sophisticated than simple demonstration and mimicry. Ancient human groups developed teaching protocols, practice requirements, and social incentives that guaranteed fire-making skills reached universal competency. Evidence from modern hunter-gatherer societies provides the model. Among the Hadza of Tanzania and San peoples of southern Africa, fire-starting instruction begins in early childhood, around age 5 or 6. Children observe adult techniques thousands of times before attempting the skill. Initial practice occurs under supervision, with adults correcting errors in real time. Proficiency develops gradually over years, not weeks. By age 12, most children can reliably create fire under favorable conditions. By age 16, they can do it in rain, wind, or other challenging environments. The social importance extends beyond individual skill. Archaeological evidence suggests ancient groups maintained redundancy. At any given time, multiple group members possessed expert-level fire-making ability. This redundancy provided security. If one person failed, others succeeded. If someone died, knowledge didn't die with them. At Sungir in Russia, a 34,000-year-old burial contained 2 children interred with thousands of carved ivory beads. The labor investment suggests high childhood status. In societies where children's survival determined group survival, teaching essential skills was paramount. The transmission system also included material preparation knowledge. Knowing how to strike sparks means nothing without knowing which fungus makes good tinder, where to find it, how to process it, and how to keep it dry. At Pavlov in the Czech Republic, 26,000-year-old living sites show evidence of dedicated storage areas containing processed materials. Ancient humans were stockpiling fire-starting supplies. They understood backup systems, preparation, and redundancy. Modern survival instruction teaches identical concepts. The ancient humans simply couldn't afford to skip the lesson. Starting fire is worthless without fuel to maintain it. Ancient humans developed sophisticated fuel acquisition, storage, and combustion strategies that ensured reliable heat through seasonal variations and resource scarcity. This represents logistical planning comparable to modern supply chain management, just implemented without spreadsheets or warehouses. Wood selection followed specific criteria. Different species produce different heat outputs, measured in British thermal units per cord. Oak generates approximately 29 million BTUs. Pine produces 17 million. Ancient humans learned these distinctions through direct experience. At Abric, Romani, in Spain, analysis of 50,000 years of hearth charcoal revealed deliberate selection patterns. During colder periods, high-energy woods dominated. During milder seasons, faster-burning woods appeared. This wasn't random collection. It was strategic fuel management. Storage presented serious challenges. A single person requires approximately 4,700 calories daily in cold climates to maintain body temperature. A fire providing warmth, cooking, and light consumes 15 to 25 kilograms of wood per day. A group of 20 people over a 6-month winter requires 54,000 to 90,000 kilograms of wood. That's 54 to 90 metric tons. Archaeological evidence from sites like Dolny Viestonitz shows dedicated wood storage areas with remains of processed fuel. They were stockpiling months in advance. The combustion management was equally sophisticated. Ancient hearths weren't simple campfires. At Gesher Beno Yaakov in Israel, hearth structures show carefully arranged stone surrounds designed to reflect heat, control airflow, and protect flames from wind. The engineering maximizes combustion efficiency while minimizing fuel consumption. Modern experiments with replica hearths demonstrate 30% better fuel economy compared to open fires. Ancient humans were optimizing thermal output per kilogram of wood burned. At Grotte 6 Thau in France, 45,000-year-old hearths contain multiple fire pits of different sizes. The interpretation is clear. Large fires for communal heating and cooking. Small fires for extended burning overnight with minimal fuel. They understood fire management at a level modern campers rarely achieve. Modern experimental archaeologists have spent decades testing ancient fire-starting techniques under controlled conditions. The results validate that ancient technologies worked reliably. Dr. Mark Collard's research group at Simon Fraser University conducted extensive trials with replica percussion fire kits. Using authentic materials and reconstructed techniques, trained participants achieved ignition success rates of 87% in under 2 minutes. The failure modes were instructive. Most failures resulted from damp tinder, not technique errors. Ancient humans simply kept tinder dry. The friction fire experiments proved even more revealing. Researchers at University College London trained modern volunteers with no prior experience in bow drill fire starting. After 20 hours of practice spread over 6 weeks, participants reached a 65% success rate. After 100 hours, success rates exceeded 80%. The implication is stark. These techniques are learnable, reliable, and effective. Ancient children with thousands of hours of practice would have achieved near-perfect proficiency. The most striking validation came from comparative studies. Modern survival experts using flint and steel performed no better than ancient humans would have with identical tools. The technology reached a performance ceiling determined by physics, not skill. Meanwhile, modern lighters fail in extreme cold. Matches become useless when wet. Ferro rods require dry tinder, just like ancient sparks. Under truly adverse conditions, ancient fire technology often outperforms its modern equivalents. The backup systems built into ancient knowledge, the redundancy, the deep material understanding, these represent a technological sophistication modern convenience has made us forget. The ancient engineers knew what they were doing. The mastery of fire creation enabled human expansion into environments previously uninhabitable. Control over ignition meant independence from naturally occurring fire sources. Groups could migrate into northern latitudes during glacial periods, knowing they could create warmth on demand. This technological liberation unlocked continents. By 40,000 years ago, humans occupied environments from equatorial Africa to Arctic Siberia. Fire-starting technology made it possible. The knowledge transfer systems developed for fire-starting education became templates for teaching other survival technologies. The social protocols, the practice requirements, the redundancy principles, these patterns repeated in stone tool instruction, tracking education, and plant knowledge transmission. Fire starting wasn't just a technology, it was a model for how to preserve and transmit essential knowledge across generations. Modern indigenous societies maintain teaching systems directly descended from these ancient protocols. Yet most of this knowledge vanished from Western civilization. The widespread availability of matches in the 1850s meant friction and percussion fire skills became obsolete within 2 generations. The abandonment of these techniques represents a loss of deep material understanding. Modern society knows what fire is chemically, but few people understand it practically. Ancient humans lived the opposite reality. They understood fire through direct engagement in ways that surpass modern theoretical knowledge. Where their understanding survived, in isolated communities and indigenous groups, it reveals the depth we've lost. The Australian Aboriginal fire knowledge that survives today stretches back at least 50,000 years, making it humanity's oldest continuous technological tradition. The archaeological evidence is unambiguous. Ancient humans didn't just use fire. They created it, reliably and repeatedly, using multiple sophisticated technologies. The percussion method with iron, pyrite, and flint. The friction methods with bow drills and hand drills. The engineered tinder bundles that captured and amplified sparks, the social learning systems that transmitted knowledge across thousands of generations. Each component represents serious innovation, refined through countless iterations into reliable tools for survival. These weren't primitive accidents or lucky discoveries. Ancient humans were accomplished engineers who understood material science, thermal dynamics, and kinetic energy transfer at intuitive levels that required no mathematical formulas. They were also brilliant social organizers who developed teaching systems ensuring universal competency in survival-critical skills. They were strategic planners who managed complex fuel logistics across seasonal cycles. The next time you flick a lighter or strike a match, remember that ancient humans created fire using rocks, sticks, and fungus with success rates comparable to modern tools. Their legacy lives on in every flame we kindle, every hearth we gather around, every warmth we take for granted. They solved an impossible problem with nothing but observation, experimentation, and knowledge passed carefully from one generation to the next. That achievement deserves recognition not as primitive survival, but as triumph of human ingenuity.